All right, lads. Afternoon. First game of the season. Spurs 1, Leicester 1. And I'm pretty sure that's probably how we all feel right now. That was Ange's reaction when Richarlison missed that header at the end. And I think that's how I felt all morning, to be honest, and all of last night. I was I was a mix between annoyed and angry last night after the game. Welcome everybody in the chat. The dust has settled a little bit now on that result. Obviously, it's the first game of the season. In this video, we're going to kind of talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about what we learned. Of course, we're going to talk about why this is the reason why Dejan Kulusevski must start against Everton. We're going to talk about this as the moment that completely turned the game. We're going to talk about Dominic Solanke. We're going to talk about Tottenham's performance in the first half, James Maddison, Pedro Porro, and we're going to talk about why Spurs are unable to continually put pressure on teams for 90 minutes. That seems to be a bit of a problem, and why we can't finish off these chances that are putting us ahead in these games. Another really good first half performance. Again, still feeling a little bit like that. But it's the first game of the season, and there is still a big, big season ahead. 37 games to go. It wasn't a loss, but it did feel a little bit like one. Make sure to like the stream. Make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. I want to say thank you so much for helping me get past 4,000 subscribers. That was a target that I wanted to get to before this Leicester game, and we're on track to hit 5k for the Everton game as well. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and get involved in the chat as well. So this is how Tottenham's set up. Then I think a lot of people thought that Dejan Kulusevski was going to start. I couldn't believe that he wasn't in the starting lineup, if I'm being honest. I was really surprised after the preseason that he had. I think he is a player that, I said this on stream the other day. I think it's not hard, but it's, he's been fairly inconsistent over the last couple of years, and it's been maybe hard to get him kind of in that flow state that he is in now. And he obviously made a big impact coming off the bench. I don't think Brennan Johnson had a good game at all yesterday. I'm going to talk about Johnson. So I was quite surprised to see him on the right. It makes sense when you look at the system in terms of the way that we obviously do set up there. But that was how we set up. I think the midfield was pretty obvious how we were going to go. Some people, including myself, wanted to see Lucas Bergvall in there. But obviously, James Maddison started, and that selection was justified because he was absolutely excellent in that first half. We're going to talk about the chances that we missed. We're going to talk about the chances that we then gave up in the second half and why that Bentancur one in the second half was a key moment. But before we do that, let's take a look at the average positions then, because I think you can clearly see a really nice structure there for Tottenham in terms of the way we want to build up. I said this the other day. I did think we'd see Pedro Porro staying that little bit wider. Obviously, he was playing more advanced than a doggy yesterday. I think that's because Maddison and Son were linking up very nicely. Maddison was very much playing as that advanced number 8, obviously almost as a number 10. You can see really, really close to Solanke there yesterday. So you don't want a doggy pushing up too much, because I think that's going to crowd those areas which Maddison really needs in order to thrive, which we definitely saw yesterday, hugging that kind of left half space, being in there a lot to receive the ball. Absolutely excellent Maddison that first half. Whereas Porro, I think with the delivery that he's got now, and obviously getting in there, scoring that goal yesterday, absolutely fantastic performance, I thought, from Porro before he went off injured. That was something that I didn't really understand why we didn't take him off sooner, but anyway. I did think we'd see Porro kind of staying that little bit wider because of the quality of delivery that he's got, which is why I think it would have made a lot more sense to have Kulusevski in the team, being allowed to drift into those pockets in the middle. Obviously, Sarr getting forward, kind of making those runs beyond Solanke sometimes, and I think that's maybe why I would quite like to see Bergvall start in the next game. Someone who's got that bit more quality in the final third when he does run beyond the striker. Sarr's engine is fantastic, but I want to talk about Bergvall a little bit later. So these were the average positions. Again, kind of typical what we've seen of Tottenham, but I think that's great. I think that's really nice in terms of the structure, in terms of the build-up. Let's go to the chat quickly before we move on. Josh Hayden says, why is Werner on the bench over Mikey Moore? Seriously, don't understand. Mikey Moore and Will Lancashire will very much be playing, or very likely to be playing, for the under-21s in the EFL Trophy tonight. So that's why neither of them were on the bench. I understand people's frustrations. JR John says, Son can't break low blocks. Someone with great ball retention on the left. And just on the ball ability in general, like Odebear can. Yeah, Odebear is someone that I want to talk about and why I think he's going to be a lot more important to Spurs than we realise. Obviously, he's putting a lot of pressure on a 19-year-old. Matthew says, Bergvall great at class. Just a lot of positives from those two, 100%. Adig says, Son missed 2 or 3 good chances because of a bad touch. I want to talk about that because there was one moment in the second half that involved Lucas Bergvall, which we were really let down by the touch of Sonny. But I'll talk about that. Anyway, Was yesterday kind of just down to a case of Spurs not taking their chances, or was there a flaw in kind of the way that we played in that second half? I believe that it is down to the chances that we missed. We could have easily been 3-0 up in that 3-4-5 not maybe in that first half, but this was the one that killed all of the momentum for me, that Bentancur miss, because we played some really nice football on the edge of the box, worked it in, shot straight at the goalkeeper, and I'm not blaming Bentancur for this whatsoever, but that was the one that just felt like one too many missed chances, because Solanke had the one just before this, which we'll come on and talk about, but that was the one that just felt like we've missed one too many chances here. One too many chances, because again, it wasn't the whole second half that was poor. You know, we started, I think we kind of came out the traps again in those first 15 minutes or so. But I think it's just, in the first half we had a lot of chances, but I don't think they were necessarily to the quality maybe of this, and maybe the Solanke one that he had as well. Because if you come back here, and we look at the possession stats, did Spurs make that? Spurs didn't make that domination count. We had 70% possession in the game, 72% in the first half, so we dominated the ball. But we only fashioned 2 big chances from those 15 shots, which was the same amount as Leicester from 7. Vicario had 5 saves. Hermanson only had 2. We had 13 corners. We had 671 passes. We had 11 free kicks. You know, we had a lot of opportunities to create some really good chances, but we just didn't quite do that, I didn't think. We had a lot of chances, but they weren't necessarily high quality. We accumulated 1.21 XG to Leicester's 1.09. Obviously, Vardy's chance was very high in terms of the expected goals because it was right in front of the goal, and you knew that it was going to be him that scored. But was Tottenham's quality of chance high enough? We were creating really nicely, fashioning some good opportunities, but not necessarily clear-cut chances, I don't think. And we'll talk about those chances now. That's where I want to start. So, first one here comes from a set piece. And I actually thought, I was actually really pleased with Tottenham from set pieces yesterday. I was actually really pleased with that. Obviously, in terms of defensive set pieces, we weren't actually tested too much. Whereas attacking set pieces, I think we'd clearly worked on some bits and clearly improved there. That front post run from Bentancur here for this chance, he flicks it on, and look where Solanke is, man. That's a great goal line clearance. That's a goal for Solanke. That is a goal. And with Solanke, I want to talk about Solanke in a bit more detail later, because I was actually really impressed with him in his debut. It felt like with Solanke, with the chances that were coming, a goal was 100% coming for him if Spurs were able to keep up that momentum that we saw from the first 50, 60 minutes or so. So that one went to beg him. Again, if we're talking about the set pieces here, Spurs work a nice short corner. Let me just move my head down here. Short corner worked out nicely to Sonny. Oh, let me just move this across. You can see Solanke there at the back post. And if I actually take that one back, you can see him there hold his run, point to where he wants it. Sonny whips the ball in. It's not a great connection from Solanke, but you can see what he's trying to do. Those ones aren't easy. That's quite a difficult headed chance for him. And obviously it goes straight at the goalkeeper. He had another one just after this, which I didn't clip, where a cross comes in, I think from maybe Pedro Porro on that right-hand side, and he gets a really good connection, but heads it straight at the goalkeeper. This one from a set piece. Again, Brennan Johnson, good connection on it. You've got 3 players there. Falls to one of them. It goes just wide. There was a lot more in the first half as well, just creating consistent good opportunities and getting in the right areas. The final ball was good into those final areas, but sometimes that cutback maybe from Sarr, who'd run into those areas, just he fluffed his lines a little bit, and that's why I think Bergvall could get into this team sooner than people think, because I think Bergvall, we'll talk about it later, I think he can have that same impact in terms of that engine, that box-to-box in midfield that Sarr does, but also add that real sprinkling of quality, especially against teams that are going to sit back and that transitional game isn't as much there. That need for that almost powerhouse box-to-box midfielder isn't quite there when you're going to retain possession in the opposition half. I think Bergvall can get into this team quite quickly. Here is an example of that, right? I think Lucas Bergvall in this position, there is a really good chance that he sort of just drives into there and tries to make something happen. That little drop of the shoulder that we talked about. Sarr goes back to Bentancur, but this is lovely. This is really lovely. Maddison on the half turn, where he is so good, opens his body up. Lovely little 1-2 with Sarr. Actually, he can go for the 1-2. He makes that run into the space. Sarr, again, lovely little flick outside the boot. Solanke, this was the one I was actually maybe the most, not, it's hard to say annoyed. I was not annoyed at Solanke because I thought his performance was really good yesterday. The one I was maybe a little bit frustrated by because he hits it very clean, but it's straight at the goalkeeper. The two headers I can, difficult chances. That one, again, he can't really go across the goalkeeper, so maybe I'm doing him a bit of disservice. That near post is kind of open. He just hit it straight at the goalkeeper. And maybe he can wrap his foot around it, try and go near post there. Obviously, it's a difficult chance, but this one as well here. Bentancur, brilliant movement into that space. I thought Bentancur had a really good first half. And second half, again, that tempo was there. Obviously, gutted to see him go off in the way that he did. Just so unlucky on that ground. Maddison pops it into him. Bentancur makes that run into the space. Nice little 1-2 with Johnson, gets it back. But this is the one that just killed all the momentum for Spurs. And I think it just made us realise as a fan base, at half-time, everyone was going, brilliant performance first half. But you've got to take your chances. And I think that was the one that really made me feel uneasy about the rest of the game, because it was like, how many more times are we going to move them side to side, pull them apart, and create openings like this? Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Tekka says, having 3 chocolate bars to drown my sorrows. I feel you, mate. Slynel says, Odegaard needs to start on Saturday. Justin Glasson said this was still a difficult chance. I think you might be referring to the Solanke one. Obviously, I'm a little bit... the stream is obviously a little bit behind. Bram says our wingers getting so many 1v1 situations due to our fullbacks inverting. If we play wingers that can exploit those 1v1s, we'll create so many more golden opportunities. This is what I'm saying about Wilson Odegaard. This is what I'm saying. I think he's going to have a bigger impact than people think. The space will be there for him to thrive in and go and run at a man. Let's do it now. I want to come on and talk about... Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Brennan Johnson, because... Actually, let's save that for a minute. I want to talk about Dominic Solanke, obviously, talk about this missed chance. I actually thought, let me know what you guys thought of Solanke's performance in the chat, because I was really encouraged. I think almost last season, I think when Sonny was playing through the middle, obviously we've been crying out for a striker. We know that, right? Last season when Sonny was playing through the middle at the start, it was working really well. And we thought maybe this team doesn't need a proper focal point. It just needs someone that's going to get in between the posts and finish off high XG chances, which Solanke can do for Bournemouth. But also his hold-up play and that focal point in the team is something that was really missing when Richarlison was injured and Sonny was playing against lower blocks that want to sit in. Whereas Solanke, his movement yesterday, his selflessness off the ball. One thing I want to talk about with Solanke as well is that every action that he has is really smooth. He's a very smooth footballer, whereas Richarlison, it's often a lot more clunky. Whereas I think everything that Solanke does has that more touch of class about it. I thought he was so good at dropping into the pockets and linking up the play, combining with Maddison or one of the fullbacks, whether it was Spence who came on later or Porro in those high inverted positions, running the channels, doing a lot of selfless work. And like I said, I think he looks really, really smooth in every single action. Obviously, a good connection with his strike here. If it's in the corner, it's in the back of the net. But I think everything that he does is just very, very smooth. His passing just gets back, bodies players off the ball. Got some stats here for you. 3 out of 3 shots on target, 3 out of 3 successful take-ons, 8 out of 10 duels won, 2 fouls won, 1 chance created and 8 touches in the box. I think it was quite an impactful display from Solanke, and I think that goal is coming against Everton on Saturday. Like I said, if Spurs had kept up that momentum and kept Leicester under that pressure, then Solanke would have got that goal. I'm absolutely convinced with the positions that he was getting himself in. Again, like you look at this, go all the way back to the start in terms of these chances. That one there, I mean, he's in exactly the right position to just get a really easy goal for himself. Again, maybe could he have taken this one down instead of going for the header? It would have been a difficult one. And like I said, there was another one as well. And again, he's getting himself right in the right areas. And again, that's the hardest bit, getting in those areas. And he's doing all the right things. And again, first game in a Tottenham shirt. First game in a Tottenham shirt for Solanke. I was really impressed, I've got to say. Let me know what you guys think. Solanke positively. Justin Glasner says Solanke positively affected the game without scoring. I agree. Zeddy says people act like this chance was extremely clear cut. No, I agree. It wasn't clear cut, but it was just. I think it was more born out of the frustration that we'd had so many. If you get what I mean, I do get your point. Jeff says Johnson should have been off at half time. Him and Timo Werner can't dribble there for life. They're so predictable. Let's talk about Johnson, man. Look, I really hate singling out individual players. I really don't want to do that. And I've stuck up for Johnson a lot. But this summed up exactly everything that was wrong yesterday in his performance. And why I think Spurs fans have been right to criticise him over the last year or so. It's just that confidence just to take a man on. So Brennan Johnson, in terms of his defensive ability, he won more duels and made more tackles with 6 duels and 5 tackles than any other Tottenham player in that first half. Did that really well. And that was brilliant here, right? Dangerous counter-attack. They turn us over for once really in that first half. Brilliant tackle. Let me know in the chat if you were screaming at the TV with this, because you've just got to drive. You've just got to drive in that position. He goes, gets just over the halfway line and just stops. Okay, granted, there's not many passing options on for him there. But you've got good pace. Back yourself. Go up there, win a foul, knock it off the Leicester player out for a throw-in and get everybody else up the pitch. He tries to come inside. I don't know why. And slips over. I think that had me... My head was hot. And look, I really like Brennan Johnson. I really don't want to dig him out. He did that well in terms of recovering the ball, but he offered very little going forward. I think the problem with Brennan Johnson is too often, and he didn't actually do it here. He didn't go, but too often he kind of just wants to run in straight lines. And I think when you've got Sarr, who again is quite one-dimensional in terms of his forward runs, having those two players in those right-hand side sort of half spaces or out on the wing can be quite, and with their almost lack of end product, it can be quite frustrating, which is why I think Wilson Odobert and Bergvall on that right-hand side, and in that right-hand side in number 8, could be the way Spurs go moving forward. I just think it was just really frustrating. Too many times he wants to run into straight lines and not really take the player on and go round him. But here he doesn't do it. All you've got to do there is run up the pitch and just play for territory, almost a bit like rugby, right? Either knock it off a Leicester player, try and win a foul, do something. Don't stop and try and come inside. Whereas I think when you've got a more 1v1, more dimensional winger, again, there's no real excuse for him there because he's not got to take anybody on. I just found it bizarre. I just found it absolutely bizarre. Justin Glasner says, Brennan Johnson is the exact opposite to Solanke. If he doesn't get goals and assists, he is literally a detriment to this team and general play. Whereas Solanke, obviously, like you're saying, Solanke offers a lot more in terms of his overall play, even if he doesn't get on the score sheet. I get what you're saying there. I do think Odobert is a much better fit on that right-hand side in terms of that explosiveness. I do think we need that. Because someone said it earlier in the chat, this wasn't one of those situations, but where our fullbacks invert, we do create so many opportunities for our winger to isolate their fullback and go 1v1 and go overside and beat him. Johnson just doesn't do that. And when you're asking him to do the basics there, I find it crazy. I found this absolutely crazy. Like, I don't want to rip into him too much, but that was just... My head was on Mars. My head was absolutely on Mars when that happened. Which is why I think Kulusevski's got to start. And I'll come on and talk about that now before we get onto the Spurs goal and the Leicester goal. Because here, right, let me move myself back up. And make sure to, like I said, guys, make sure to let me know your thoughts in the chat. And make sure to subscribe as well. That'd be massively appreciated. The road to 5k is here. Honestly, your support has been massively appreciated. I'm super, super grateful. This is why Kulusevski needs to start for me, because he will ride those challenges. He's not afraid of doing that. He's not the quickest. He's not the perfect fit for the system. But every time Kulusevski got the ball yesterday, he wanted to take his man on. He wanted to drift inside. He wanted to create. And he's not afraid of riding that tackle. Lovely. That is a beautiful touch. And again, Johnson, if he receives the ball with his back to goal there, will probably look for the safe option and maybe try and find a pass back in here and hold on for it for too long. Kulusevski's got that elegance mixed with that robustness to take that touch round him, get taken out, get back up. Sorry, let me move the screenshot across. Ride another tackle, get past him, and the referee blows up for the foul there. But Kulusevski would drive into that space, and then you've got Richarlison and Solanke in the box there. And obviously Spurs get the free kick, which Richarlison heads a chance wide from. I just think Kulusevski has to start. And I think if let's go back to... let's go to the tactics board. It's not something I've prepared, but I think we talked about it on the stream yesterday. I just think with Kulusevski and Bergvall as well, Lily White Lab said this after the game, their ball retention is is crucial to this team, and it allowed us to gain control of the game, which is something we massively lost. I don't think Johnson is good for the team when we're under pressure because that ball retention is not there. We get that from Solanke. We lost that with Richarlison last season because things just tend to bounce off of him. This Lily White Lab tweet summed it up perfectly. Imaginative with their movement off the ball and the physicality to withstand the pressure and win duels. I've got some examples of that for Bergvall, but this was a great example for Kulusevski. And I think they'll both be very, very key to the team this season. I do genuinely see that. And like I said, we're talking about Odebear, but I think I've got to go for Kulusevski on Saturday. I don't know how you guys think about that, but that's the way I see it. And if let's bring this back up. This wasn't quite the Leicester team that we saw, so let's get rid of these Leicester players. Yeah, make sure to like, stream, and subscribe, guys. Obviously, Leicester were really poor in that first half. We just allowed them back into that game. So frustrating. Yeah, this I think. Obviously, Bentancur will come out. I think Basuma will come in. I do think Basuma will probably come in on Saturday. Obviously, Bentancur that injury. I think this is the team that I would like to see against Everton, who will sit in and make it difficult. You get into the final third, and I think hopefully Porro is fit enough. Move these all up. Move these all up. I think I want to see something like that on Saturday. Because I think Porro, again, like I said yesterday, he was kind of staying that little bit wider, was coming inside, inverting, which will allow Kulusevski to take his man on 1v1, which I actually think he's a lot better at than people give him credit for. He's got that robustness to ride the tackle. But also, if he stays that little bit wider, you've got a doggy there kind of making that double pivot in midfield. You've got Bergvall, who can occupy these spaces. Solanke occupying the defenders, which leaves more room for the likes of Maddison. Then Maddison can find Solanke. Porro can make those runs into the box. Kulusevski can make those runs into the box. I think that's what I want to see. That is what I want to see on Saturday. I think Kulusevski has to start. Let's talk about the goal then, because I think it was a great example of Maddison's passing range. I think it was a beautiful Spurs goal. I think that was kind of Ange ball at its almost at its best, really. And it starts with the reason I think it's Ange ball kind of at its best, and whatever Ange ball is, you know. I think if I just move myself down, is because it starts with that line breaking pass from Romero into Sarr. One touch, pops it off into Bentancur. Maybe I'm best up over here actually. Bentancur, one touch into Maddison. And then Maddison, the typical kind of outside the boot spray to Sonny. Sonny cuts inside. Again, he can sort of shape up to cross. I've got to move myself back. Let's move myself over here. What I loved about this is that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in the box. Let's take Sonny out of it because he's not really in play here. Sarr is asking for the ball there to feet. Porro's on the run. Solanke's asking for the ball. And Johnson is creating an opening for himself with his hand up at the back post. So many options for Maddison to pick out there. With all of the players in that box showing the bravery and willingness to ask for the ball. But it's Solanke occupying the two defenders, which allows Porro to just make that run in. And it's a brilliant header. I know it maybe comes off the back of his shoulder, but to get anything on that, you're asking real questions of the goalkeeper. It's such a brilliant goal from Tottenham. And I think it was the sort of goal that really exemplified our dominance in that first half, because we were just able to do everything that we wanted to do, play out from the back really comfortably and pick them apart. It's a great cross. Really good cross. And I thought Maddison was excellent. He did fade a bit in that second half, but so did the whole team. And that's been one of my critiques of Maddison in terms of him fading. I don't want to see that. But I do want to see what I saw from him in the first half, which I thought was excellent. But yeah, that is the team that I would like to see on Saturday. And I know what you guys think in the chat. Let me know. But that was the goal. And then this was the Leicester goal. Just quite preventable. Good cross in from, is it Christensen, the fullback? Makes a run across the front post. Ends up all the way with Fatawu. And it's just unacceptable to be leaving Vardy in that much space. Romero, I actually didn't think had a great game yesterday. I do think to give Romero Van der Ven, I thought Van der Ven was fine, to be fair. To give Romero and Udogie especially the benefit of the doubt, because I didn't think they were great. I thought Udogie had a really good first half. But to give to give Romero and Udogie the benefit of the doubt, Romero obviously played a full summer of Argentina. Udogie was injured throughout pre-season, obviously off the back of last season, and only really played 45 minutes against Bayern, as did Romero, as did Van der Ven. So I think that sluggishness was there. And again, we just completely lost control of the game. So if you look at this Vardy chance, this is what I'm worried about with Tottenham, just leaving ourselves so open. Vardy there in that much space, able to find the ball to him. And I know Vardy's very good at running behind. And again, I know Vardy is 37 years old, but he has still got that instinct. And he's still a difficult striker to play against. But just so open there in that back line. And I don't really know how you go about solving that. But I do think having midfielders on the pitch that can control the game that little bit better does stop us from finding ourselves in these situations. And wingers as well, that actually will retain the ball. Ball retention. Kulusevski is so key to this team. One way or another, he's got to get it. Got to get in it for me. But you speak about ball retention, and I want to speak about Lucas Bergvall. I thought had a tremendous impact on the game when he came on. Obviously, he got shouted at by Vicario. Which, again, let me know your thoughts on that in the chat. That's kind of divided opinion. But I didn't really like it. I'll be honest. I didn't really like it. Anyway, let's go to the chat before we talk on, because we're probably going to finish on Bergvall and then look ahead a little bit to Everton. But again, there'll be one of these streams ahead of Everton as well, so we'll do that a little bit more then. And thank you guys for watching, everybody. Massively appreciate it as usual. DJ Truth says we were great, but for me, Maddison was so very frustrating. He was responsible for almost all our best moves, but at times he was a passenger as well. For me, Kulu starts next game over him. I hear you. I wouldn't start Kulusevski over Maddison. I would just start Kulusevski, I think, on that right wing. Because I think, again, low blocks, I don't think it's going to be the game for Johnson. Yesterday wasn't really even the game for Johnson, even though he actually did have some decent opportunities. But I think Kulusevski's got to be on the pitch on Saturday one way or another, if I'm being honest. Sonny says Romero looked fantastic on the ball, very aggressive, but once again turned off when they had the ball. I think it's unfair to say once again, but I get your point. On the ball, he's fantastic. And like I said, for the goal, that pass to break the lines, he did that multiple times. But yeah, he just switched off, which is unlike him. I do think is unlike him. And this is my thing about Vicario having a go at Bergvall. I don't see him kind of putting that same energy across towards the centre-backs. I know Vicario does go mad sometimes and does scream and shout at his defenders, but I wanted to kind of see that same energy reciprocated at the experienced players. And I want to talk about that lack of leadership. I do see a lack of leadership in this Tottenham team. I do see that. And I don't know what you guys think as well. I think the goal kind of exemplified that, if we kind of go back to it. Not really taking responsibility in terms of picking up the man there. And look, I think Romero is a really good leader in this team, but I still think there's so much more that needs to be added to really get this team to where it needs to be in terms of leadership. And I don't think screaming at an 18-year-old midfielder shows that winning mentality, if I'm being honest. I think it's about taking responsibility. And I think it's having a calmer head in these situations to say, look, lads, don't worry, calm down. Like Harry Kane used to, almost just, okay, let's just calm down. We've conceded a goal. Let's bounce back, play our football. Little bit too frantic for me in terms of the way we respond to these moments sometimes. And I think that sometimes that does come from Vicario. Josh Hayden says if Romero has another bad game, Ange has to drop him. I'm not sure about that. I think Romero is arguably our most important player. Sam Fuller says, as someone who loves Johnson, definitely needs to be a super sub. I agree with you, mate. I still like Brennan Johnson, I do, but I saw some things yesterday that I really didn't like. Right, Bergvall. This, for me, is the reason why Bergvall can displace Sarr in the team, because he is so brilliant at breaking up play. And I think he's got a cracking engine as well. Maybe not quite to the level of Pat Matasar, but in terms of the quality that he has got out on the ball, I think maybe the fact that he's not quite as good kind of in transition, although I do think he is good in transition in terms of covering the ground defensively. I think we saw that a lot in pre-season. He has got a good tank on him. I think that quality in the final third, when he does win the ball back, is why I think he displaces Sarr in this team at some point. Here, just to go and win the ball back, and then the silky feet here to get away. Fantastic. Again, high up the pitch, winning the ball back, recycling. Here, receiving the ball on the half turn. This little action, look, he's completely unmarked, under little pressure, but it's just the way he takes that touch. A little bit like Kulusevski with the outside of his foot. He's always looking to create different angles, not doing things in straight lines, and not taking the simple option. It just allows him to scan and read the game a lot better. Here, nice little reverse ball into Kulusevski. Here, picks the ball up on the edge. This was the chance I was talking about earlier that I was going crazy at. Bergvall picks the ball up, drifts inside, into Kulusevski. Son's touch is like a balloon there, and it just kills it for Spurs. But I do think Bergvall should start on Saturday. This is the team that I said I would like to see. Let me know yours in the comments. I thought Archie Gray came on when he did well. I think when Werner came on, again, you're kind of going like for like on that right-hand side, a player that just wants to run in straight lines. I think Kulusevski had to come on earlier. Sonny Trayalor says, Bergvall being on set pieces and some of the comments in pre-season from other players suggest they all know how good Bergvall is. It's a matter of time, but we don't want to rush it. I understand that, but I think when you've got someone there who can make an impact on the team like this already, I think he should. I do think he should come in. I think Bergvall should start for me personally. I do see that. Dr. Johnny D7 says, this was the type of game where you score a second and it's 4-0, you don't, it's 1-0. 100%, because, and I hate to say it, this is what Arsenal become brilliant at under Arteta. And this was kind of the old Arsenal thing, right, under Wenger a little bit as well. They go 1-0, they go 2-0, bang, game's done after half an hour. Tottenham, I'm still waiting for that from this Spurs side. I think we've got all of the tools to be a really top player. Top team, sorry. And I think we saw that in the first half with some of the moves that we put together and some of the chances that we fashioned. But it's about that ruthlessness. It is about that ruthlessness. I've got a quote actually from Ange that I wanted to talk about in terms of his view on the game, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that before we end it, guys. Bit of a shorter stream today, but I want to keep these ones with the Premier League, want to keep them snappy and kind of go through everything. So he said, Ange said yesterday after the game, and I want to get your thoughts in the chat. Disappointing night for us. First half, excellent and controlled the game, but wasteful in front of goal. Second half was the same. We started off well, and once Leicester scored, the crowd lifted, and we lost our composure. That, for me, also comes down to a lack of leadership, I do think, in this team. Just to say, lads, look, come on, calm down. We can get through this difficult patch. It was an issue we had last year as well. We need to keep working hard and be a bit more ruthless in front of goal. At times, we made poor decisions. When we are that dominant, we should be outside. We have played to score goals and we didn't score. The dominance is great, but if you don't score, it's meaningless. To be that wasteful tonight is disappointing. We just weren't clinical. It's not our football or effort. To get results, you need to be a lot more ruthless in the final third. And just spoken about that a lot. If we don't get that, we won't get the rewards our football deserves. He spoke about the debutants. He said they were all okay. It's not our football or effort to get the results. You need to be a lot more ruthless in the final third. If you don't get the rewards our football should get, the responsibility is on me. That's why you coach. Again, good from Ange taking responsibility for it. I don't think Ange really did a lot wrong yesterday, to be honest, in terms of the, like I said, team selection. I think Kulusevski probably should have started, but that's on me. But you can 100% see why. You can definitely see why Johnson did. It just didn't quite work, in my opinion. But ended up like this at the end of the day. But he's right. The football that we play, you've got to take your chances because we fashion a load of them. Again, not the most high quality ones, but certainly enough chances to score. A few of them we were a bit unlucky with. A few of them we could have been that bit more ruthless. Ange's football requires us to be as ruthless as possible because there will be moments in games where we just lose that bit of control. But you don't put yourselves in this situation. If you go and score 2 or 3 goals, instead of wasting chances like this, or like these ones, then you don't have the problem. You take the sting out of the game. You don't allow the crowd to get Leicester back into it. You don't allow Leicester to feel that opportunity and smell that blood. So, look, something to work on 100%. I do think there were a lot of positives from the performance yesterday. Like I said, I think it was a really good debut from Solanke. I think Bergvall came on and made a massive impact. I thought Bentancur was good before he got substituted off, obviously. I do still think we need that proper number 6 in there. I think Bentancur is fine when you've got 70% possession and you're dictating and controlling the game, but when things get tough in transition, that's where you need that proper enforcer, someone to break up the play and stop you being so vulnerable in transition. But that's my thoughts on the game. I'd love to know yours in the comments. Someone said we need João Gomez so much. There are rumours that João Gomez is in London today, by the way. Just saying. But yeah, guys, hope you've enjoyed the stream. I'll be back streaming probably on Friday in this kind of capacity to preview the Everton game. Again, we'll be streaming on Sunday after the Everton game to react to it. There won't be like a transfer stream, news stream tomorrow because I will be in Manchester doing the overlap fan debate, so we can catch up and chat about that on Thursday morning. But yeah, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow the TikTok page. Follow me on Twitter. All the links are in the description. And I hope you've enjoyed this one. Look, we'll be back. We'll bounce back on Saturday. I have no doubts about that, and I think we'll go and beat Everton convincingly. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the stream, guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm off to go and play some golf to de-stress from being a Tottenham fan. Okay, have a nice day, guys, and up the Spurs.